بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين. Be sure we shall test you with something of fear and hunger, some loss in goods or lives, or the fruits, but give good news to those who patiently persevere. Al-Baqarah, verse 155. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very warm and healthy good morning I bid to all of the participants of INSLA 2020. First of all, let us praise the Almighty Allah SWT. Because of His blessing, we are able to attend this highly esteemed international seminar on Sharia and Law, INSLA 2020. Secondly, may peace be upon Prophet Muhammad SAW, who has given us guidance and showed us the light. I would like to begin my speech with a sincere thanks to the Faculty of Sharia and Law of the Islamic Science University of Malaysia, USIM, for inviting me to deliver keynote speech in this August seminar. In the next few minutes, I hope to contribute by sharing with you the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on Sharia judiciary, particularly on its operation, and how has the institution, namely the Sharia courts, dealt with it, and the reforms that are taken in making sure the continuity of its service during the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, the world is currently suffering from another respiratory disease episode following the emergence of the 2019 novel coronavirus infection in Wuhan since December 2019. It then rapidly spread across China and several other countries. The disease is officially known as Coronavirus Disease 2019 or COVID-19. It has claimed the lives of over 1 million individuals globally. If I may recollect, the epidemic and pandemic in the history of Islam both are not unprecedented in the history of humankind. There have been several documented epidemics and pandemics. Ibn Kathir, in his book Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, indicated that the first disease outbreak faced by the earlier Muslim community in Sham was the plague of Amwas. The plague of Amwas occurred during the Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab Caliphate. The epidemic had taken many lives of the prominent companions such as Bilal ibn Rabah, Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah, Yazid bin Abi Sufyan, Muaz bin Jabal, his wife and 2 sons, and others. Imam Suyuti, in his book Ma Rawahu al-Ma'un fi Akhbar al-Ta'un, has recorded several epidemic and pandemic faced by the Muslim community in history, including plague in Kufa in 49 Hijri. The epidemic took the lives of Al-Mughira bin Shu'bah. Plague in Basra, known as the plague of Al-Jasif in 64 Hijri. It is said that around 70,000 people died on the first day of the epidemic. And not to forget, the deadliest pandemic recorded in human history, namely the Black Death. The Black Death was a devastating global pandemic of plague that struck Europe and Asia in the mid-30s. The Black Death has resulted in the deaths of up to 75 to 200 million people worldwide. The Ottoman Empire likewise suffered the impact of the Black Death. The interesting point that I want to highlight here is about the Ottoman Empire's experiences in facing the pandemic series. As noted by the prominent historian Nuhayd Varlik in her book plague an empire in the early modern Mediterranean world. The Ottoman experienced 1347 to 16,000. She pointed out that pandemic had pushed the Ottoman Empire to introduce some innovative and reforms in its administration. For example, they developed new regulations for the burial of the plague victims. They kept records of the daily death toll. They kept the street clean and relocated some businesses out of the cities. They also provided better health services. They introduced a quarantine reform law to cope with epidemics. For that purpose, they set up quarantine stations to control and disinfect individuals and goods that entered its borders. A good point to note here is that it was Abi al-Hussein ibn Sina, Avicenna, who first came up with the idea of what we call today as quarantine or social isolation. He came up with the method of isolating people for 40 days. He called this method Al-Arba'iniyya, the 40, in his book The Canon of Medicine, Al-Qanun At-Tibbi. Here we can see the silver lining or the hikmah of the pandemic is that it has pushed humankind to innovate and reform in many aspects in order to accommodate themselves into the new situation and norms. Ladies and gentlemen, in Malaysia, the pandemic of coronavirus COVID-19 has impacted almost all areas of our life. The administration of Sharia courts is no exception. The effects of the pandemic have been felt until now. Following the Movement Control Order MCO on March 18, all operations at Sharia courts nationwide have been halted. However, it did not stop the administration of the Department of Sharia Judiciary of Malaysia, known as JKSM, and the Sharia courts, which have continuously discussed using the online platforms to formulate reforms if the MCO was finally over. I have to say that was the time when we really utilized our online services. Though before that we were constantly told to explore all the online and electronic medium. That was the time when documents in the manual files were not referable, and every related works that we have to do has to be kept electronically so it can be accessible. With regards to the operation of the Sharia courts, we do realize that justice delayed is justice denied. JKSM and the Sharia courts have to come out with suitable ways to operate the courts. One of the first ways is by learning from experiences of other countries. Thus, JKSM has organized series of talks with other judicial bodies in other countries, including Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, and Australia. The series was sharing sessions between the countries in finding out the best ways to make sure that the courts stay operating even under the spreading pandemic. Dear brothers and sisters, during the MCO, all Sharia court staff worked from home. As a first exposure to the new normal, work directives and related instructions were being circulated and implemented using the communication medium such as telephone, email, or WhatsApp. In the midst of MCO and during Conditional Movement Control Order CMCO from May 13 to June 9th, some Sharia courts resumed its operation in a very limited manner. There was no walk-in client except by prior appointment. The registration of new cases was confined to application for dissolution of marriage involving domestic violence, application for registration of divorces outside the court, injunctions, and any matters of urgency. During this period, the Sharia court's administration was done limitedly. following the SOPs strictly as issued by Majlis Keselamatan Negara and directives from the JKSM. It was only on June 10 that all Sharia courts in the country are back in full operation, in line with the Recovery Movement Control (RMCO), ahead of the civil courts, which only resumed its entire operation in July the 1st. In tandem with the government measures and SOPs, JKSM has been issuing administrative directives and SOPs to all Sharia courts from time to time to accommodate and adapt with the current changes, and most importantly, to normalize the new normal. Ladies and gentlemen, changes and reforms. During MCO's period, apart from many cases that have been postponed, there was also an unusual spike in divorce cases. During the MCO, the Sharia courts only received 11 divorce applications. This minimal number is understandable because during this period, everybody was stuck at home. During the CMCO, however, from 4th May to 9th June, there were 3,708 divorce applications filed before the Sharia courts, with an average of 90 cases per day. During the 8 days of RMCO, there were 2,850 divorce applications, with an average of 356 cases per day. As surprising as the figures, these are among the challenges that the Sharia courts have been facing and are still facing during this pandemic. Although quarantine and some restrictions induced by COVID-19 have created to a certain extent damaging repercussions in court activities, access to justice to the public must not be impeded. Justice delivery is an essential service. Wheels of justice cannot be halted because of the lockdown. Hospitals are open, the same applies to the judiciary. Therefore, a lockdown cannot result in locking the courts altogether, and the only method available for holding court hearings is to remote access by adopting online video technology. There will undoubtedly be real challenges in implementing remote access to Sharia courts in the duration of the pandemic, particularly in the early stages. On a positive note, many examples have emerged from remote hearings having been conducted successfully by the Sharia courts. Even under challenging circumstances, for instance, during the CMCO, Sharia Court of Petaling managed to hold a court hearing through video conferencing for a divorce case. There were also other instances where sulh or mediation sessions also were conducted through video conferencing. In addition to that, Sharia Court are also prepared to extend its operation after its normal office hour and even for night session for hearing. At the administrative levels, meetings, conferences, training, courses are mostly done virtually. JKSM, together with several other bodies, has commenced an effort to amend several provisions in the Sharia Court Civil Procedure, Federal Territories Act 1998. This amendment will introduce reforms and reflect an important aspect of the Sharia Court's dynamic response to the new challenges and many legal issues arising in the context of the current pandemic. The changes will expand the use of technology in all related aspects of operating Sharia courts under the pandemic. Our Prime Minister in last September, speaking at the opening of Nusantara Sharia Judicial and Legal Conference 2020, said the use of new technology must be given a priority by the administration of the Sharia courts. Without technology, the administration of the Sharia judicial system could be hampered and thus obstruct the implementation of justice, which is one of the core foundations of Islam. Sharia courts are prepared to embrace all new technology into its administration as part of new norms. Ladies and gentlemen, although we are still combating the COVID-19, the pandemic will not definitely stop all the efforts pioneered by JKSM in bringing new reforms in the administration of Sharia courts in Malaysia. Among those reforms are to restructure of JKSM and Sharia courts based on the concept of separation of power. This is to be realized by the establishment of Sharia Judiciary Commission. Secondly, to rebrand JKSM as an institution managing all affairs relating to Sharia legislation. Thirdly, to reinforce the coordination and standardization of Sharia laws throughout Malaysia. Fourthly, to establish Sharia Court of Appeal at the federal level. Fifthly, to expand and widen jurisdiction of Sharia Court in terms of its criminal and civil jurisdiction. Sixthly, to review the emolument rate of Sharia judges by legislating Sharia Judge Remuneration Act. To enhance the cooperation with ministries and other departments either at the federal or state levels. And last but not least, to improve the competency and efficiency of Sharia officers through the establishment of the Sharia Judicial Training Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, COVID-19 pandemic is proving to be one of the greatest socio-political levelers in our generation. In this situation, we find ourselves united by the same goal of finding appropriate solutions within our institutional boundaries to uplift our economies and societies. If justice delayed is justice denied, the COVID-19 would seem to be a disaster for our judicial system. But 8 months into the crisis, there are signs that what is slowing courts overall is actually accelerating reforms in procedures. This is undoubtedly the hikmah, or the blessings, or the wisdom, or the positive side of COVID-19. When the pandemic finally ends, we hope that some of the changes that have been introduced will continue to be endured by the Sharia judicial system, and the efforts to reforms will continue. Finally, I would again express my pleasure and thanks to USIM for giving me this opportunity to share some food for thought in this seminar. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.